Time to check in with Dr. Joe Schwarz, host of the Dr. Joe Show, Sundays here at 3 p.m. on CJAD, and director of the McGill Office for Science and Society. And Joe, we didn't get around to this last week, so let's pick up on this because it's a story, that was in the news a long time ago when we all started using cell phones, but it's back, which makes you wonder, have we learned something new, or is this just the cycle and these things are going to come back? And I'm speaking of cell phones or smartphones and the risk of cancer. Where are we on this?
Well, the story never completely went away. As is often the case with any new technology that is introduced, there's immediate opposition to it, whether it was vaccines, whether it was antibiotics, microwave ovens, and this was also the case for cell phones. Because, let's face it, in theory, there could possibly be some risk. These phones do produce radio waves, and you're holding them close to the head, so you can't automatically say that there's no effect. Anyway, I've followed this business now ever since the cell phones were introduced, and unfortunately much more closely for the last 8 years since I lost my wife to glioblastoma, which, is one of the diseases that was linked with cell phones. Well, linked really is not a scientific expression. What we look for is evidence. And now I think we do have the evidence that there is no cause and effect relationship here. And the World Health Organization, which is, is a pretty highly respected body, and they decided that they better review this business. So they did ask 11 experts in the field from 10 different countries to review the evidence that has accumulated since cell phones were introduced. And believe it or not, there have been about 5,000 studies published since the middle 1990s when these were introduced. So they looked at all of these studies, and many of them, were very poorly carried out, but they eventually narrowed it down to 63 studies that were properly controlled, that measured the amount of hours that people use cell phones, and they had information about the health status of thousands of people. And what they found, that there was absolutely no link. It didn't matter how long they used cell phones. It didn't matter what kind of cell phones they used. There was just nothing to link these to brain cancer. And indeed, another very interesting observation is when you look at the rates of brain cancer, and it's pretty steady since the 1990s. Now, you would have thought that if there was anything to the cell phone business, with the billions of cell phone users who are around now, who weren't around in the early 1990s, that if there was even a small increase in brain tumors due to cell phones, that would have appeared epidemiologically. When you have billions of people using something, and if there's a negative effect, you are going to see that. So anyway, this is where it now stands. And, people, you'll remember that even during COVID, there was all this nonsense about the 5G cell towers causing cancer. Well, those produce even less impactful radio frequencies than cell phones. So it really isn't an issue.
Okay.
Of course, it no matter what kind of study you do, it's never going to totally put it to rest, because there will always be the alarmists who will, find reasons not to accept the information because they are unwilling to change their mind about their initial accusations. But this is not how science works. Science is a self-correcting discipline. And if something new comes up that contradicts what we knew before, we accept it. And, when we look at this massive evaluation of these studies, I think we can rest assured that there's no risk with cell phones, at least not from the radiation that they produce. There may be other problems, people using cell phones while they're driving. That's a completely different issue. And, there we do have evidence that is a risky business. And then, of course, there's the social implications of relying totally on our cell phones. When I see students sitting outside my office 2 feet from each other, texting each other on their cell phones instead of talking to each other, or when you see people lined up at bus stops in the morning, every single one of them being on the cell phone,
staring at their phones.
That's an issue because you don't know what they're looking at. And,
by the way, someone just yelled at their radio, Joe, as you said that, saying, it's none of your business what I'm looking at. I heard someone yell that just now. Listen, at least we have a government looking at this for kids in school anyway, and I think maybe that's a step in the right direction. So let's go with that. I want to squeeze in this other topic today that you want to mention. So requirements to sell a natural health product in Canada. I know in the past, some of the, and you've spoken about these in the past as well, right? Yeah. Homeopathic remedies, medications, et cetera. What's this story?
People are very confused about this. I think most people appreciate the fact that selling a prescription drug has very stringent requirements. You have to have randomized, double-blind controlled trials, over years to show that a drug is safe and effective. This is not a requirement for the so-called natural health products. First of all, because they're not really intended to treat any serious disease. I mean, I don't think anyone believes that these natural health products are going to treat cancer or diabetes, although some marketers will underhandedly suggest that. So the requirements are much less. And there really is no issue with safety. I'm quite convinced of that. According to Health Canada regulations, you have to show that there's no heavy metal contaminants, that there are no disease-causing microbes that are present in a product. You have to show that there are no fungal metabolites and that it is produced in a government-approved facility. All of that is good. But when it comes to evidence, the evidence that is required is much, much, much less than what is required for prescription drugs. And I guess, that's understandable because they're not designed to treat serious disease, so the requirements should be less. But they're much, much less, I think, less than what they should be. Health Canada produces so-called monographs, which are available on their website. And these are documents that describe ingredients that can be present in natural health products, that come from plant sources, animal sources, etc., what dosages can be, and what claims can be made. And it's enough to refer to one of those monographs in order to get a license to sell a natural health product. But those monographs really don't deal with efficacy. The evidence is very low level. For example, it is enough to refer to a monograph that claims that a product has been traditionally used in traditional Chinese medicine or in Ayurvedic medicine.
Okay.
And all you have to do is say that, it has a long history of use there, and therefore you can get a natural product number from Health Canada for it, and that natural product number has to be displayed on the label. Now, what does a consumer think? You see a number issued by Health Canada on the label of a supplement. Isn't it logical to think that this has been proven to be safe and effective? Whereas it is safe, but the efficacy, that's very questionable because there's no requirement of studies of that specific product to show that it does anything. It's enough to just, give references to these traditional sources.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it at that. But the basic message here is don't be fooled. Just that Health Canada numbers you just said, that has nothing to do with efficacy at all.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think you can rest assured that these things are safe to take according to the label directions.
But that's it.
But don't use them to try to cure any kind of disease.
Dr. Joe Schwarz. Dr. Joe, thank you. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Aaron.